Chazal tell us a very famous line. Mishenichnos Av, from the time that the month of Av enters in, Mematin b'simcha, a person must decrease their happiness. It doesn't mean get depressed. Chas v'shalom, a Jew is never ever allowed to get depressed. But in order to appreciate this time of the year, in order to feel the hargasha, the emotions of not having a Beis HaMikdash, in order to know what it means to be wanting and to be lacking and to be missing something, we have to be mema'atin, we have to decrease the level of joy. And as the Shulchan Aruch explains, the level of those things that make us happy, we have to decrease them little by little during this time. And the Gemara, as the Shulchan Aruch quotes, says over the following: Mematin, you should decrease bibinyan shel simcha. You should not build yourself a building of joy. What is a binyan shel simcha? So the poskim, the halachic authorities tell us that if your house, Baruch Hashem, has enough room for everyone to sleep comfortably, and you don't need an extra bedroom, but you would like an extra bedroom. You'd like to remodel for the third time this decade already, because your neighbor already made gray and now the tans are out of color already, so now you have to upgrade already. So if you'd like to increase the simcha, the joy in your house by adding on, says the Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to during this time. This is not a time for remodeling. It's not a time to go to your favorite tile and marble store and pick out the exact marble that you want for when you walk into the entranceway, the foyer of your house. This is a time to remind ourselves that the Beis HaMikdash is lying in ruins. How could I think about beautifying my house here in Los Angeles? So the poskim asked the following shaila, the following question. Let's say that I'm not going to build during this time of the year, but I'm merely going to prepare my house for the building that will take place after Tisha B'Av. I have a part of my house that I have to knock down the wall, and once that I knock down that wall, then I'll be able to add on a nice big room that's going to make me very happy until my neighbor does the same thing next year. But in the meantime, it'll make me very happy. Asks in halacha, are you allowed to knock down the wall during the 9 days, even if you're not going to build? And the poskim tell us that the harasa, the knocking down of the wall, is the haschala, is the beginning of the binyan, of the building itself. Knocking down and destroying something that eventually you're going to build upon. That already is the beginning of the building that you are going to do. You cannot destroy during the 9 days, because if your intention is to build, then even the destruction already is part of the building. And that would be too much simcha, too much joy for a person to have. Knocking down a wall when you know that it's going to lead to your new room is already going to increase the joy and the happiness and the excitement and the anticipation that you have waiting to see what is going to be rebuilt. Chazal tell us in no uncertain terms, as Rabbi Yoda writes in Shari Tshuva, when a person begins to look at things that are surrounding them, when they begin to see the difficulties of their life piling up, when they see the challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends our way, and He certainly will send them our way, Do not despair. Do not get angry with Hashem. Do not give up your hope in the Ribbono Shel Olam that He knows what He is doing. Because as the Sha'arei Tshuva tells us, HaChoshech Sibas HaOira, darkness is the cause, is the vehicle which brings about the light in your life. Like it says in the Navi Micha, Al tismechi oyavti li, my enemy should not rejoice. Ki nofalti, when I fell down. Kamti, because I will arise and I will get up. Ki eshev b'choshech, even though that I'm sitting in darkness. Hashem or li, Hashem is light to me. The darkness that a person goes through in their life is the light that the Ribbono Shel Olam will bring to them. The nefila, the falling that they have in their life, is the kima, is the way that they're going to get up. And he quotes the Midrash, Ilmole nefalti, if I never would have fallen, Loi kamti, I never would have gotten up. If I never would have fallen, Ribbono Shel Olam, if I never would have fallen into that sin, if I never would have had that bad midah that I did to my husband or to my wife, or the way that I chastised my child when I shouldn't, if I never would have done that, Loi kamti, I never would have gotten up and learned how to be a better person. Ilmole yeshavdi b'choshech, if I never would have sat in the darkness, lahaya orli, I would never appreciate and see what the light is really all about. Say the poskim when you want to destroy a wall during the 9 days of Av, because you have intention to build afterwards. You're not allowed to break down that wall, because the destruction already is the building. The destruction that you're doing leads you to the simcha, to the joy that you're eventually going to receive. Says Rabbeinu Yoina, all of the nefilos, all of the fallings, and the failings, and the mistakes that we make, all of the situations that we put ourselves into uncomfortably, and we made mistakes, all of the challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends our way, don't despair, says Chazal, because the darkness is your light. The nefila, the falling, that is the way you're going to rise up. Several months ago, I had the pleasure of taking my 2 youngest children to one of these children's museums. And in this particular museum, they have a very exciting insect room. That's why the fathers have to take their children on these days. And one of the insects in a gigantic tank was called the Madagascar hissing beetle. One of the biggest, ugliest beetles that you will ever see in your entire life. But for a kid, it's the most exciting thing you could imagine. So we're sitting there, standing there watching, peering into this big tank, and the beetle with hundreds, it looks like hundreds of legs, is working its way up this little piece of wood so it can get onto the highest of heights where all the other beetles are hanging out. And the beetle's moving up, moving up, moving up, and he took a wrong step and he fell back all the way down onto his beetle back. And his little legs were just moving and floundering in the air. Now this is very exciting for a child to see. They're watching. Wow, look at the beetle, Tati, look how it fell. But I was thinking about something else. I wanted to know, how is this beetle lying on its back with its legs up in the air? How is this beetle going to turn itself around and get back onto its feet? Now listen to the chachma that the Rebbeinu Shalom created in his creation. The legs of this beetle, not for one split second, ever stopped moving. They were moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and moving until all of the energy that the legs were building up allowed the beetle to somehow shift. If they have a shoulder, I don't know, but shifted onto its shoulder and turned sideways, and the legs are still moving and moving and moving. And then eventually the beetle grabbed on to the dirt that was on the ground, pulled itself up onto its legs, turned right back around, and climbed up the place where it fell down from before. And I was reminded of the pasuk in Mishlei, which says, Sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. A tzaddik, a righteous person, falls 7 times, v'kam, and they get right back up. In Lashon HaKodesh, in the Hebrew language, it should say, Sheva yipol tzaddik, a righteous person falls 7 times, v'yakum, and they will get up. But that's not the language that Shlomo Melech uses. A righteous man falls 7 times. V'kam, he is getting up right now. While we are falling, while we are struggling, while we don't understand what the Rebbeinu Shalom is doing to us, come, that's when I'm getting up. My legs never stop moving. My emunah never wavers. My trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't get weak even when there are things that are happening all around me and I simply cannot understand. Because if a Madagascar hissing beetle can believe that if you don't stop moving, you're going to turn yourself around and move right back up the mountain, then a Jew who has the Rebbeinu Shalom, a Jew who has emunah, a Jew that has Torah, a Jew that has mitzvahs, a Jew that has kedusha, a Jew that is connected to the Rabbanim, all the more so, you must believe in yourself that even in the harasa, even in the destruction, even when it's getting knocked down, that already is the pathway to the building. And therefore, even in the darkness, says Rabbeinu Yaina, the light is already shining in. Rav Dessler, in the Michtav Milion, speaking about the difference between Olam Hazeh, this world, and Olam Haba, the world to come, we all know that the ultimate reward is going to be in that world. And all the things that we didn't understand in this world, they'll all become clear. All the whys, W-H-Y apostrophe S, all of the whys of our life, there will no longer be any questions. But sometimes, when a person is confronted by challenges, sometimes when there are difficulties in one's life, sometimes when it's hard to get along with everybody, especially those that live under the same roof as us, we ask ourselves, why? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us so much, and He only wants the best for each and every one of us, and He wants us to be happy just like every single woman that is here. Those of you that have children, you know that when you brought a child into this world, what did you want for that child? Besides, she's going to look so cute in her little dress and the pictures you're going to send out to everybody to come to the Kiddush. Besides that, Besides the bris milah that you spent $100,000 on so everybody should know that you had a son, besides all of that, what was your real intention of bringing this child into the world? That you would give it the greatest, most wonderful, loving, caring life that you possibly could. And it pains every parent when they see their children in pain. Whether they're young and they're getting bullied, whether they're older and they get a scratched knee, whether they're older and they're confused, it pains every parent when they see that their children are struggling in life. Because as parents, we want to give everything, the best of everything. But we're limited. We don't run the world. We're not in control. We can plan, we can do, we'll even have bank accounts waiting for them. Who knows what we have in mind and in store for them? It doesn't matter. As much as you'd like to accomplish for them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And not everything is going to work out the way that we planned. But the Ribbono Shel Olam, who is Ava Rachaman, He's our Father of mercy, our Father in heaven. We are Banim LaHashem Elokeichem. We're the children of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not limited in all the goodness that He can do for us. Hashem can shower us with bracha, with kindness, with mercy, with compassion. Everything that we want in our hearts, Hashem can give us. So Ribbono Shel Olam, if you love us so much, and you only want what's best for us, and you really can do anything that you want, why then do you give us so many challenges in life? Why do you make things so hard sometimes? Why is there a Churban Abayis for 2,000 years already? Don't you want us home? Don't you want us to come to the Beis HaMikdash? See the Shekhinah revealed? Why, Hashem? And Rav Dessler writes, Tzarech ledas, everyone has to know, Ki hayisurim, the struggles and the challenges and the difficulties that a person will encounter in their life. Heim siyata d'shemaya. This is heavenly assistance that the Ribbono Shel Olam is showering you with. Asher behem Yesaya HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oisanu. With all of the challenges Hashem is helping us, Lehiskarev Elav Yizbarach, to come close to Him. If I never would have fallen, I never would have gotten that up and close to Hashem. If I wouldn't have been in the chayshich, in the darkness, I would not appreciate the lights that Hashem is showering me with every single day. If there would not have been destruction, then I would not fully be able to build myself, my neshama, my midos, my avodas Hashem, my mitzvahs. But because that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me so much, He gives me never-ending siyata d'shemaya, heavenly assistance, that every little detail of my life, hakol, everything, is b'yidei shemayim, is in the hands of heaven. And that means every person, every place, every situation, every challenge, every sickness, every health, every job that didn't work out, every shidduch that didn't go, every child that I didn't have or that I did have, everyone, hakol b'yidei shemayim. It's all in the hands of Hashem. And it's tailor-made specifically for you. And if it was supposed to be any other way in your life, then Hashem, who loves you and who cares about you and wants what's only the best, then he certainly would have given you something else in your life. Says Rav Dessler, and you should know that even though all of this is out of our control, Lo yisalek b'zeh mimenu es efshar asah b'chira. We have not lost our free will. Ki asher yisur midudinein. Even though that all of the struggles in life are measured out exact and they are matim, they are perfect for who we are. Mikol mokum halimud atzmai. What we will learn from them, how we will grow from them, how we will make ourselves a better person as a result of them. Tolui bebechiraseinu. That is up to our free will and the way that we are going to handle it and deal with it. V'yecholim anu listoim eseinenu, and we have the ability to close our eyes, ulahakshos eserpeinu, and to make ourselves stubborn. V'yazadabra nimsa adarabba nimsa mokim litain negdo Hashem, and in the most trying times of our life, instead of using them to see how Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to bring me close, I'll say the exact opposite, and I'll say, Hashem, you really did this to me? Do I deserve? I understand my neighbor, they deserve such a thing. But me? Maybe my sister, no, she's not so careful, Lashon Hara. Anyway, Hashem, she deserves it. But me? You do such a thing to me after everything I've done for you? Don't misuse the siyata d'shemaya that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending you. Every ounce of our lives is tailor-made by the Ribono Shel Olam, because He loves us and He wants us close. And the more that we learn from these situations, the more that we grow from them. Sheva Yipol Tzadik, don't stop moving. They come right now. And you'll turn yourself around and you'll go right back up the mountain fearlessly, because you know that you can. A very, very powerful Maisa story of a very choshev Yid, Rav Azriel Tauber. He was a Holocaust survivor. He went through Yisurim, such suffering nobody could ever even believe and imagine. And he made it his mission in life after the war. After he survived and he saw that he was still alive, he made it his mission in life to go and strengthen Klal Yisrael in the world of Amunah, in the world of Bitachon, and getting close to Hashem. If I, he would say, who went through Gehenim, could still be strong in my belief and close to Hashem, anybody can. And he was one night speaking in front of a large audience, and most of the crowd was irreligious. They were not frum. And he told them the following idea. It's amazing what the Jews in the concentration camps did when they would go into these death camps and they would die with their faith and Shema Yisrael on their lips. They died al pi Kiddush Hashem. They gave up their lives and sanctified Hashem's name. But perhaps he said, there's a much greater Kiddush Hashem that each and every one of us can live. And that is living al pi Kiddush Hashem. A person can live a life that sanctifies and glorifies Hashem's name. And you don't have to go, Rahman al-Islam, to the gas chambers for such a thing. And then he began to tell over a story which took place in the concentration camp of Treblinka. For those of you who know the history, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, created a death camp called Treblinka, where in less than 1 year, 800,000 Jews were killed. It was the premier gas chamber camp, and they had wreaked so much destruction and so much death, even they realized that if they would ever get caught, what would the world say about them? They destroyed the camp after 1 year. And all you can find growing on the plains of this field today are strawberry patches, ironically. In that camp of Treblinka, Rabbi Azriel Tauber explained to them that when the Jews came in and they got off the cars, most of them had no idea that within 24 hours they would take their last breath of life inside of the gas chambers. And as the Jews were herded into the gas chambers, and the Nazis, Yimach Shemom, they were screaming and yelling at them, they tried to destroy not only the bodies but the souls of Klal Yisrael. So what did they do? In front of the entrance to the gas chambers, they had taken a parochet, a curtain from one of the shuls that they had destroyed, and on the curtain it said, Zeh Hashar Lashem Tzadikim Yavo'u Vo. These are the gates to Hashem. The righteous will come through here. And that was the last thing they saw of this world. The paroches that surround the Aron Kodesh with the message, tzaddikim go through these gates. And it is really true. They were tzaddikim who went through those gates. But in one story from Treblinka, which is a bit famous, as the Nazis were throwing everybody in, and these Jews were looking and they saw the paroches, the curtain, and they saw the message, and they knew they were going to their death. It was known already at that point. So the Jews clasped hands and they began singing and dancing. Our very famous words that we say in Shachris in the morning, Hava v'ashreinu ma tov chelkeinu. How fortunate we are with the portion that Hashem has given us. How graced we are that the Rebbeinu Shalom, we are His children and He loves us. And the Nazis could take away everything from us, but they could not take away our neshama. And that is how they went to their death. And Rabbi Tauber had the crowd mesmerized. There wasn't a sound in the audience. And he said, my dear friends, as amazing as it is to die Kiddush Hashem with such faith, perhaps a greater way to make Kiddush Hashem is to live al pi Kiddush Hashem. And anyone, he said, that is sitting in this room and is alive today means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you the gift of life. And you are here to use it, to elevate it, to get closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom and become a living example of what Kiddush Hashem is all about. When the shir was over, a woman comes running over to Rav Tauber. She's a Balas Tshuva, and she says that her father, who is not religious, is with her at this shir. And she's wondering, would Rabbi Tauber please meet her father? He's a survivor from the Holocaust, and he's no longer religious. And Rabbi Tauber said, of course, bring him over immediately. And the man comes over and he says, let me introduce myself to you. I am one of the few survivors from the camp Treblinka. And I saw those curtains that you talked about. And if not for a miracle, I would not have survived. And at this moment, the man is looking down and he's crying, and he says over the following, that because of the miracle that Hashem made for me, that is why I am so angry with Him. Why did I have to go through Gehenna? Why did I have to watch my mother and my father and my children get gassed in the chambers? My whole town, my whole community, everybody. Why did I have to watch? I went through the worst of the worst suffering. And I asked myself, and then you let me live? So at night I can have nightmares, haunted day and night by what I went through. I can have nightmares about my father's face every single day of my life. That's why you let me live, Hashem. And I've been asking the Rabbi Shalom for years, why did you torture me like this and let me live? And the man could not stop crying. And Rabbi Taber sat there and he let the man cry. And then he looked at him and he said, my dear friend, did you find an answer tonight to your question on Hashem? And the man nodded his head and he said, yes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu left me in this world to live as a Kiddush Hashem. And Rabbi Tauber looked at the man and he said, your daughter, this Balis Tshuva, has done something incredible. She restored the paroiches, the curtains. And we can even say that she added her own beautiful design. And yes, the tzidkos, the righteousness of your daughter for returning to a world that you had left with great anger. Tzadikim yavovo. These are the gates of righteousness that only the tzadikim will pass through to get closer to Hashem. The father and his daughter embraced, and they hugged and they cried like never before. And this man was an old man, and Rabbi Tauber worked with him, and he made him into an emissar, Baal Tshuva, a person who returned his life to living Kiddush Hashem in this world. The challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us, that is our hatzlacha, that is our success. The darkness that surrounds us in certain periods in our life, that is the cause of all of the light that's going to come to our lives. The failures and the fallings and the mistakes and the stumblings and the hardships, that is the kima, that's what's going to bring us and lift us up. And during this time of the year, which we're mourning the loss of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we have to learn that the destruction is how we're going to be rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. And this, Rav Schwab, in his beautiful sefer on tefillah, on prayer, he asks a beautiful question. Every day you say Shemon Esrei, whether it's once a day, whether it's twice a day, if you're a big tzaddikis, maybe it's 3 times a day. Baruch Ato Hashem. We're in the blessing on Yerushalayim, that we cannot wait for Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, to be rebuilt. Baruch Ato Hashem. Blessed are you, Hashem, Boinei Yerushalayim, the builder of Jerusalem. Ask Rav Schwab a simple question. Hashem is not the builder right now of Yerushalayim. It should be Yibonei Yerushalayim. Hashem will rebuild Yerushalayim. When Mashiach will come and everything will be perfect and the Beis HaMikdash comes down from Shemaim, then Yibonei, Hashem will rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. What do we mean that He's Boinei? He's building the Beis HaMikdash right now? There is a lot of building going on in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh. It's true. But it's not the Beis HaMikdash. What does that mean? And he says over a beautiful idea, and perhaps we can borrow a concept from the Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes says that if you look at the word galus, galut, it comes from the word hisgalus, to reveal. The exile that Klal Yisrael goes through for 2,000 years already, it is Megal, it reveals the greatness that is inside the neshamas of each and every one of us. If you could live in Los Angeles, California, and have Yiras Shemayim, and you can dress like a Yiddish mama, like a Jewish woman's supposed to dress, and you say Tillim, and you daven, and you encourage your children to learn Torah, and you support your husbands, and you kick them out of the house at night, and you tell them, go to the kollel and go and learn, then this gullus, this exile that we are in, it is Megal, it reveals such koiches, such potential, such energies, such strength that you have inside of your neshamas. Says Rav Schwab that don't think that the building of Yerushalayim, of the Beis HaMikdash, is only going to be when Mashiach will come. The building of the Beis HaMikdash is something that is taking place right this very second. That all of the exile, all of the pogroms, all of the Holocaust, Inquisition, the suicide bombings, the deaths in the shuls, the tragedies in the waters, everything is all the destruction, the falling, the darkness that is creating already the edifice which is going to allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu to build a Beis HaMikdash. When you pass by one of the numerous construction sites and they're going to build a 10, 20, 30, 40-foot story building, if you peek over the fence, says Rav Schwab, what do you see? They're digging deep, deep down. Because the foundations to be able to build up a strong, tall building have to be very deep, very strong, and very sturdy. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation has to be. For 2,000 years of Galus already, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Deeper into the hearts of Klal Yisrael, deeper into the neshamas of the Jewish people, deeper into our nation, deeper into our homeland. He's digging deep, deep, deep. Because the building that he's eventually going to rebuild, the Beis HaMikdash itself, will be an edifice that will last la'olam va'ed, forever and ever and ever. It will never be destroyed. If you want to build something that will never be destroyed, the foundation has to be very deep and very strong. Says Rav Schwab, whatever Klal Yisrael has gone through, and whatever we are going through, and whatever we will go through, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is digging the foundations to bring about the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, the answer is yes. It's not that he will build Yerushalayim. Rather, Boinei Yerushalayim, he is building everything right now. The tzaddik falls, he's getting up right now. The darkness is there, the light is there right now. The struggle is challenging me. I'm falling to the ground. Come to, I will get up from such a thing. Every single thing that the Rebbeinu Shem sends me in my life, siyata de shemaya, heavenly assistance. Don't complain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows exactly what he is doing. And if it was supposed to be any other way, then he would have done it another way. But because this is the way that it is, this is tailor-made just for you. I'd like to end with a powerful story that I heard recently. One of the big mechanchim in the world today of, I guess we'll call them children in crisis, is a Yid by the name of Rav Shimon Russell. He began his career as a therapist in Lakewood, and eventually, after many years of dreaming of going to Eretz Yisrael, he settled in Eretz Yisrael. And his niche in Klal Yisrael right now has become, he's a mechanech par excellence, and he understands the sug, he understands what is going on with the children that are struggling in our generation. And he told over the following Maisa. Many years ago, before it was such Rahman al-Litzlan, an epidemic, the way that we have it today, when kids were going off the traditional pathways of Yiddishkeit, no parent had any idea what to do with them. Nobody had any idea. They were clueless. There was a boy in Lakewood, and he began going off the derech of Yiddishkeit, and it was getting really, really tense in that house. The fighting and the screaming and the yelling, really, really bad. And the parents didn't know any better. The boy didn't know any better. He had some trauma that was a very big cause of why it is, and nobody understood what it was. One Friday night, father comes home from shul. His teenage son didn't go to shul. And everybody's standing around the table, and it's time for Kiddush. So they call the young man. They tell him, Tati's making Kiddush. And he comes down to the Shabbos table, jeans and a t-shirt with a very angry look on his face. And he goes and he stands against the wall by the dining room table like this. The father begins making Kiddush. In the middle of Kiddush, this young man, who knows exactly what he's doing, is standing by the light switch, and he goes and he turns off the light in the middle of the father's Kiddush. The father lost it. And he lunged at his son across the table, and a whole fight and an arguing match ensues. And the son begins running, and the father's chasing the son around the table, and the mother and the kids are putting chairs in the way so the father shouldn't catch him. And suddenly the son runs out the front door, and he finds a rake on the lawn, and he goes to all of the windows in the house on Friday night, and he smashes every single window that he can. And then he runs off. And this is Friday night. And the parents don't see this boy the rest of Shabbos. And they have no idea where he is. No idea. After Shabbos is over, they receive a call from the boy's uncle who lives across town. And he says, I know, whatever happened, happened. Your son came over here. He's welcome to stay here as long as he wants. So they call the parents call Rabbi Russell. This goes back 20, 30 years. And they tell him we need an emergency meeting. And they tell him everything that happened. And it was agreed that at that time it wasn't right for the boy to come back to their house. Let the parents work. Let them go through the process. Let them understand how to accept, how to deal with it, how to understand, how to give love to this boy the way that he needs. And they worked diligently to bring themselves to a level where they felt they would be able to love their son in the jeans, in the t-shirt, even if he turned the light switch on at Kiddush on Shabbos. After 6 months, the boy's uncle calls Rabbi Russell, and he says the boy would like to come home for a Shabbos. Are his parents ready for such a Shabbos experience. And so Rabbi Russell and the parents spoke it through, and they went through all of the things that could possibly happen, all the things that the boy might do, that he might try to do, he's going to try to test them. And they were prepared. And he said, yes, let the boy come home for Shabbos. So the boy comes home Friday afternoon, there in his jeans and his t-shirt. The reunion is loving and warm. Everyone is seemingly happy to see each other. But as Friday goes on, tension begins building up. Emotions are flying and flaring a little bit. And by the time it comes Friday night and the father's going off to shul, the boy doesn't want to go to shul with his father. Fine. Comes home. It's time for Kiddush. And the boy saunters back into the room once again. Jeans and a t-shirt. And he stands up against the wall just like this, with that same angry face on. And the father begins making Kiddush. And in the middle of the Kiddush, the boy leans against the wall, boop, and he turns off the light once again. But the father was prepared this time. And he just continued making Kiddush. He didn't say a word. And when he finished making Kiddush and he poured the cups of grape juice into the little cups, he began passing it around. And then he walked over to his son. And he hands his son the cup of grape juice. And he said, I wish that I would have known then what I know now. I'm so sorry. And at that moment, the father begins crying, and he puts his arms around his son, and the son begins crying, and they slide down the wall together in tears, lying on the floor crying. The mother comes over, she falls on top of them, she's crying. The other kids in the family come over. The entire family is lying on the floor Friday night crying. And at that moment, the rebuilding of this young man began. Today, Baruch Hashem, he is a frum Jew. He is married with children. And he is living a life that is a nachas in the eyes not only of his parents, but a nachas in the eyes of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows exactly what he's doing. And if Klal Yisrael lays in Galus for 2,000 years and the Beis HaMikdash is still in ruins, that means that we are obligated from the destruction to become the builders of ourselves, the builders of our marriages, the builders of our families, the builders of our communities, the builders of Klal Yisrael. And be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach in the schos, that we believe in the Ribono Shel Olam, and we appreciate all of the siyata d'shemaya that He gives us in our life. Im loy nafalti loy kamti, if I would never have fallen, I would not have gotten up. And in that schos, and in that merit, we should all be zeicha, we should merit to see the greatest building and the rebuilding for Klal Yisrael that the world has ever seen. With the building of the Bayis Shlishi, the third Beis HaMikdash, on those beautiful foundations of Galus. Bimheira v'yameinu.